We got Valentina Shevchenko back here on the program, who's going to be fighting for the vacant flyweight title on December 8th at UFC 231 against Joanna Jedrzejczyk. Valentina, how are you?
Hello, James. I'm feeling good, very motivated, and can't wait for the exact date, December 8th.
Yes, and it's been kind of a crazy year for you with all of these fights scheduled and things not panning out. But first, I wanted to ask you, where are you right now? Because I know we've seen on social media you were in California training with Cris Cyborg.
So right now we are in Maine, so we are preparing here for a few weeks already. So it's very beautiful nature, like a lot of wildlife in here. We are living like next to the lake, so we have everything. After the morning training, we are going to the lake to catch some fish, then have some like nature walk and feeling every time good being and training on the nature and like catching this spirit, like wild spirit.
Yes, no, it's great to be around nature, especially when you have a really tough training camp to, take your mind off everything. So that's great to hear. But I mentioned it off the top. You've had a bit of a crazy year in terms of scheduling. First, let's talk about the fight with Nico Montaigne that didn't end up happening. I know you've sort of voiced your opinion on everything that happened with her, not being able to fight. But I wanted to know, did she ever contact you after the fight, apologizing for what happened, her not being able to compete?
I even like now, I don't want to hear nothing about that girl. For me, it's like already I don't know who is that. So it's already so far in the past that I never was thinking more about that. And every time I'm trying to focus me on what waiting me in the future.
Okay, no, fair enough. Well, I'll give you another name then. Chara Eubanks. It looked like the two of you were supposed to fight on that New York card. When did you find out that fight didn't happen? Because I know that was, I'm sure a little disruptive for your training, thinking you have one fight and then they end up moving it.
So yes, it was a little bit like it was going different ways. I was starting my training camps and like breaking it, and again starting and breaking it, and it was in one point it was that I was thinking, okay, I'm don't want to hear nothing more about this, like you will fight here there. I just like will concentrate me on what I am doing right now. It just when you will be ready and will give me the name and date, so doesn't matter who it will be, I will fight her. So I was like, okay, I'm tired of hearing all of this, just give me exact name and date.
Right. No, I imagine. Very frustrating situation. With your training, though, were you able to get any time off? Because in some ways, it's almost like you've had to do a couple different training camps for fights that didn't end up happening.
Basically, it's no, I didn't have um, time off for a long time because, yes, exactly, last maybe half a year, it was full. Months of hard trainings, and it's basically one entire training camp prolonged it for like such long amount of time. Yes, and I was training every time hard and of course I had just a little bit, maybe few days, 1 week out, just like to be relaxed, not thinking about fight and what I have to do on my trainings. For sure I had a little bit time like this, but most of the time I was focusing on my next preparation. Doesn't matter who it will be, Sajara, Joanna, I was training.
And let's talk about Joanna. This is a big matchup here for the title. You've defeated her 3 times already in Muay Thai. I know that's a different discipline in martial arts, but how much of an advantage do you think that is, just having that mental edge of beating her 3 times?
Every experience it gives some kind of every time experience it helps. Doesn't matter if it was different rules or something like different, because of course I know the size of my opponent. I know what to expect from her, and this is more like important. And I think it will be a great fight because it will be great striker fight, and we will put like a lot of striking in there.
Right. No, I imagine, and the fans are in for a treat with that stylistic matchup. How much of a fighter do you feel like you've improved since when you guys did fight in Muay Thai? Because you've really progressed along in your martial arts career.
Yes, of course. It's like time is going, and I know exactly if someone not performing, not going better, it's not good for a fighter. And of course, I feel that I now on a different level than that I was before. Same, I think Joanna, she is feeling the same. But in the final of the day, it doesn't matter because I'm so sure in my power and in my technique and in my speed and everything that I have, and just like waiting for this, now we can say, small amount of time, and be in the same mood, in the same physical condition, in the same like spiritual condition, and just step into the octagon and finally show everything that I every time was showing on every my fights.
It's been well documented on social media that you've been training with Cris Cyborg. I wanted to know, how did that all get set up with you going to train with her, and what was that experience like?
Yes, I'm trained with Chris, and it was very nice training because she has the same mentality as me, because she's not a young, I mean, not recent fighter who just started her martial arts way. Yeah, same as me. We've been fighting for a long time ago. I was fighting like my first MMA fight. It was in 2002. Her fights is same like. Maybe the same time. So we know how it was before, and we know how it was like difficult to find fights for the female fighter, and what we have to pass through all this time to be on the level where we are right now. So it was very nice to train with her, because I every time love to train with the sparring partners who show the same love for martial arts, and they like she wants to train, she wants to be better, doesn't matter what she has to do, and her mentality, it's like training martial arts 100% a day. So it's very close that I have in my mind.
How long did you end up training with her?
We was training for like a few sessions, and we are planning to train to have some training more. After this trip, we are going back to Las Vegas, so she's expecting to go to train in Las Vegas with me as well.
That's great. Wow, two powerhouses like yourself getting to train together. I think that's so cool. How have you structured this camp in general? We talked about the fight cancellations. When did camp officially start for you? And you mentioned training with Chris. How have you structured things? Because now you're in Maine. So how have you sort of structured everything?
It's better say that this training camp never ended for me.
Right. Yes.
So
Okay.
it doesn't have to start. So after the September, after the what happened in September, I took maybe 1 week without training, just like enjoying my days. We went to exploring different places, and then. We start to think about fight with Joanna in December 8th. So we start to plan our training camp, where we want to go and where we have to do it. And then we receive this notice that it will be earlier. It will be November 3. So we change our plans. We moved everything. We start to training harder, because it was like already time to start like full powerful training camp. And then so it was all over the place. It was Texas, it was Houston, so it was countryside of Texas in the range near the Louisiana. So then it was Las Vegas, then it was Los Angeles, and now we are in Maine. So it still continues, because we still have a lot of time before the fight.
What about the weight cut? When has that started, or will that start very soon?
The best part of my weight cut is I don't have to cut too much weight, and I don't have to have the strict diet before the fight. Even now, just like few minutes ago, I posted on my Instagram page the cool video of what I'm gonna eat today, tonight. So it's very like some kind of foods that will give me a lot of power, and especially here in Maine.
And how do you see this fight unfolding on December 8th?
Um, I will perform me um, in 100% as I do in every time, and of course, my main goal not leave the decision for the judges. I want to finish the fight sooner, so. I just will go in there and start from the very first second and just go without no stop before the fight will end.
There's another flyweight fight on your card, Caitlin Chukagian and Jessica Ai. Do you think the winner of that fight will end up fighting the winner of your fight with Joanna and yourself?
Everything is possible, and it's very good news for me because I will know that if something happens that I don't think will happen, but I know that I will not stay without fight in that night, and doesn't matter who, one of three girls I will fight with. So this is more important, and this is more happiest thing for me.
Some big news that happened recently. We saw Demetrius Johnson leave the UFC and was basically traded for Ben Askren. I wanted to ask you, is there anyone you'd like to see traded to the UFC if was more of a common thing?
Traded? It's difficult to say because in UFC, it's like all best fighters, not all best fighters yet, but mostly the best fighters, they are here in UFC, and it's very difficult to say who I would want to see traded. It's very difficult question.
No, no problem. Well, one name I'd throw out at you, Alima Leigh McFarland. I don't know if you're familiar with her. She's the Bellator flyweight champion. She seems to be beating everyone. I think it would be neat at some point to see her in the UFC, and seeing as and how she's in your weight class, I think she'd bring a lot of interesting matchups to the UFC. What do you think about that?
Why not? Yes, why not? It's still we have a lot of female fighters like outside of 125 division, outside of UFC, but it's only because 125, it was just recently created, not so far ago. We would say it was enough time, but with certain circumstances, we could not see a lot of movement in this weight class. But in general, I think that 125, it will be more exciting, a more interesting to watch female weight class, because now we finally back on the track, and now 125, it will never stop, because we could see a lot of female fighters from 115 went up and from 125 went down. So we can see that this is exactly weight class where will be a lot of talent and a lot of powerful girls.
Great. And this is going to be a fantastic fight. I can't wait for it. December 8th, it's UFC 231. Valentina, thank you so much again for the time. It's always so good talking to you. Just remind people where they can find you on social media. And if you have any sponsors or shout outs, the floor is yours.
And James, why it will be more exciting weight class, because me and my sister Antonina, we are in this weight class. So I just want to say that we are here preparing together with her, because she will fight in 1 week before my fight, and of course I will be there in her corner. Now she has a little change in her fight, because she was supposed to fight with Ashley Evans-Smith, but Ashley, she get injured, and now she has Korean opponent. And what's the most interesting fact, that I don't know why, but it's during all these years that Antonina was fighting, she start MMA fights, not start MMA fights, but won her first 2 world MMA championships against South Korean opponents in South Korea and Seoul. So she was fighting with the best Korean fighter in her home country, and she won. She won her in 2003, and she won another one, her belt in MMA fight in 2005. And now, with all this change, the destiny is put again in front of another one, the top striker of South Korea, and November 30, she's ready to show that her everything and her game, and because every time when I watch her fight, it's very exciting for me, and I feel like, okay, this is it. I want to go there too.